So we're going to listen to a couple of different versions of that song, Dinah. We're going to come back to that song now. We abandoned that for a couple minutes here. I hope you guys can still remember what it sounds like. I think you will. So we're going to listen to a couple of different versions here. And I've set this up so that we can kind of see that this is the earlier era of jazz. This is kind of the middle era, and then this is more of a modern era. So on the left here, we're looking at kind of the Dixieland. I think you guys can see my mouse, right? The Dixieland, New Orleans, Chicago style, somebody said earlier, that Dixieland early jazz kind of oompa oompa kind of feel, and that kind of moves into the swing band era, and that's about where it starts to morph and kind of move away from those old traditions into this middle era where we have things like bop, a lot more faster lines, faster music, more influence through improvisation. Then we have this kind of cool, chilled out, kind of laid back era in that middle era of jazz, which goes into what we call hard bop. And that's kind of a cool version of bebop. So it's still pretty laid back. And then all of a sudden in the 60s and 70s, when rock and roll music really starts to take off, we get this huge shift again. And now we're in this really driving rock and roll, avant-garde, free jazz where people are just kind of playing and everything's very spacey. You can think about the kind of music and the culture that was happening at this time period, the Woodstock kind of culture. Things are very spacey and esoteric. And then that kind of moved into, with rock and roll, we moved into what's called the fusion and the jazz rock era of like the 1970s. And then beyond that, we get things influences like hip hop and all of these other kind of popular culture, mostly Black popular culture, moving into what is considered jazz. So again, I want you guys to tell me which one of these is not Dinah. So we're going to listen to the different styles here, and I want you guys to try to pick out which one is definitely not. So I'm going to start with an easy one. We'll start right around where people tend to think jazz is, and we're going to start with a Louis Armstrong tune, 1933 here.
The next number we're going to swing for you is one of the good old favorites. Yes, Dinah, Dinah. Look out there, boy. Are you ready? Look out.
Oops, sorry. Yeah, it's...
Dinah, is anyone finer in the state of Carolina? If there is, let me know. Show to me, Dinah, the Dixieland blazes, from Memphis City gazing to the eyes of Dinah me. Baby, every night, one eye, shake my fight, cause my dynamite, change your mind, did you want to set your Dinah, baby? I'm having a Dinah, oh, baby. Oh, Dinah, Dinah, oh, Dinah, oh, baby, Dinah me. Dinah, 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 oh, baby, every night,
All right, cool. Yeah, I like what you guys are saying. Yes, please keep giving us your thoughts. This is the really important part because we want to be able to kind of come to these consensuses of, okay, well, it sounds like this, and this, so therefore it must be from this kind of time period. That's really what I'm looking for you guys to understand here. It is a much faster speed. That's right. This might be Dinah. Yes, it is. And yes, we heard him singing it as well. So let's talk about a couple of the ways that this was done here. It's definitely a faster speed, right? So we're hearing kind of, it might almost be bop. It could be bop. I mean, it is fast, right? Bop is fast. But why is it not bop? Why would you say that this is not that bebop, chaotic kind of sound? This is definitely before that. What are the things that you're hearing that are making it sound older? And I'll throw my thoughts as well. You guys can type in anything that comes to mind. I'm hearing him kind of do some of the improvisation, right? So if I'm hearing the vocal improvisation, if there's a lot of improvisation, it must be bebop. If it's fast, it must be bebop. Yeah, but it swings like the joke music. Yes, very good, very good. So we're hearing that older kind of oompa oompa Dixieland kind of feel, right? Yeah, good. So this is actually in 1933, as a matter of fact. So this was much later than a lot of that music was. Sounds like 20s dance hall stuff. Yes, so you're hearing that kind of influence of the swing era as well. So we're kind of stuck in the middle. And this is kind of the point that I want to make here. These styles are influencing each other so much, so drastically all the time that it kind of blends into these different eras. I mean, this is the 1930s, and it still kind of sounds like the early 1920s. So a decade, you know. And okay, so let's go to another one here. We'll keep on one moving. So this next one is a little bit earlier than that. We'll listen to that. And again, I want you guys to give me your thoughts here about similarities, what makes you think that it sounds earlier than that. Yeah, good. Yeah, Angela said it sounds like the country fair. Yeah, so that's very, very true. And I think that kind of gives it that older kind of vibe, right? We're hearing a lot more of the oompa oompa, a lot more of the, at the country fair, you would hear an outdoor wind band, a traditional kind of military style of band. So this is kind of more in that style, and we're hearing a lot more of that influence than the more laid back, kind of looser feeling that we were hearing a little bit later on. And again, this is only a difference of a couple of years. So let's try this next one here. Actually, I should probably show you guys that. Okay, so we just did Louis Armstrong, right? We went a little bit before him with Fletcher Henderson's band. We heard a little bit of the trumpet on the top. Fletcher Henderson was actually a pianist and a band leader, but that was his band a little bit earlier. And again, they come out of that tradition of the Dixieland, morphing the Dixieland with the swing to kind of become what we know of as Louis Armstrong kind of era music. So now we're going to step out of that earlier era, and we're going to move into the bebop, the cool, the hard bop, the bop era. This was the kind of the cooler era of that period. And we'll listen to this next song here. You tell me what you think this is. So it sounds modern to you? Okay, yeah. Well, what makes you think that? It sounds closer to smooth jazz. Gonna have this song stuck in my head for days. Yeah, I did. Well, I do usually when I'm doing this this presentation. Yes, it is Dinah. Yes, that's right. Very good. Well, you guys can't. Yeah. Okay. Good. Okay. You guys just guessed that. Good. Lots of cymbals, right? So we hear a lot of the drum or influence, right? The recording is better quality. Good. So that is a hint, right? That it's not that old style of jazz, although they do have remasters that sound a little bit better. But yes, that is a good point. The audio quality is better. Do we hear a big band sound? I'll play a little bit more of it here. It sounds clean. They sound okay, yeah, we do hear a big band, right? But do we hear the same kind of big band as we heard with Fletcher Henderson? Let's listen to that as well. You're convinced it's 2019. Okay, like each instrument has their own mic. Okay, yeah, no, I can see why you would think that. And yes, it's true that they do. In 1956, this one was recorded. They did record it in a different style as they would in these kind of old bands where they would just kind of put one microphone in and let it pick up whatever they could. Let me show you guys this page. So you can see, there's Fletcher Henderson's group, what we were just listening to, the big band jazz, the older style of jazz, right? You can see how many musicians are here. In Chet Baker's group, the later one that we were listening to, this one. Yes, this is 1956. That's right. This is the cool era of jazz. This is kind of the influence of bebop. We can hear the drums are a big influence in bebop. We can hear a lot of that drumming kind of thing, but it's not the oompa, oompa, oompa. It's very laid back, getting kind of more modern, right? It was 1950. Yeah, I'm not being it. That's okay. So, but what we're listening for is the size of the band is not as big band as Fletcher Henderson. We're getting those kind of smaller groups. There's still quite a few instruments here, right? And that's part of the cool tradition, which we'll talk about more as the class goes on. But we're definitely not hearing that old style anymore. It's much more laid back. It's much more chill. I think somebody said, yeah, chill. And it sounds like each instrument is recorded better, recorded more individually. These are all big hints as to when the era might have been. What are some reasons why it wouldn't be 2019? Yeah. What would you expect to hear or not expect to hear if it was 2019? No synth, right? That'd be a big clue, right? More soloing. Yeah, you could say that. There is actually quite a bit of soloing in this one as well. So that's a good point. Let's listen to a little bit of solo. Yeah, good. A bit more like subtle hip hop influence, maybe. Yeah, sure. I can see that be the beginning of hip hop, right? We're kind of getting into the more modern kind of style in the rhythms and the drums that we're hearing. Yeah, I could hear how that would morph into hip hop in, I don't know, 20 years or something like that. But yes, we're hearing it's becoming more and more modern, more and more laid back, more and more focused on different instruments. And we heard the soloing. I would expect it in the 29. Oh, okay, yes, I see what you're saying. In the soloing, we're not hearing as much of a chaotic thing, right? So this is still in the same era as bebop, but we're just a little bit more chilled out. So these are the kind of details that I want you guys to start kind of tuning into with your ears. We'll leave that as it is. We'll go on to the next one here. So, all right, next, I have another pianist here. And this one is a little bit after Chet Baker that we just listened to in the 50s, which was the cool bop era. This was a little bit more in the hard bop and kind of moving into the more avant-garde, free, kind of quote-unquote weird styles of jazz. Again, this is a pianist. I want you guys to tell me what you think this is. That's loud. Sorry, that's loud. So first question, is this Dinah? This is Dinah, yes, very good. We can hear little bits of the song, right? And then it kind of goes immediately off, which again is a sign of the evolution of jazz. They kind of relied on the melody a lot less, especially because the songs are so popular, everybody kind of knows them. So what are some similarities that we heard to the older style of jazz that we've been listening to? I'll let it play a little bit more. You guys can put your thoughts. Right. So that was Thelonious Monk playing solo piano there, going from that ragtime to more block chords. Yeah, you do know what you're talking about in piano, huh? Chunk, chunk, chunk. More improv. Yes, it doesn't stick to the melody as much, right? But you can still hear the melody, and you could sing along if you really wanted to in your own head or something like that. We're hearing that chunk, chunk, right? Are we hearing that kind of ragtime influence at all in the way that he's playing the piano? I'll play it a little more. Yeah, and Angela said harder notes too. Yes, that's the style of Thelonious Monk. It's much more playful, much more in the modern tradition, right? So now we're definitely not in the earlier style anymore. We can hear the difference between something like that and kind of the old ragtime that most people would think of, like The Entertainer, those kinds of sounds. A little ragtime in the rhythm, yes, exactly. So the tradition is still there, right? But it's definitely not ragtime. It's definitely not from the early period of jazz, the 20s and things like that, the early 20s, the late teens. This is definitely something a little bit newer because of the reasons that you guys were listing earlier. The block chords, yeah, that's a little bit advanced, but yeah, harder notes, right? He's playing it very, very awkwardly and different. We're hearing a lot more improv. It doesn't stick to the melody as much. Things like that are all reasons that we would push it out of that earlier jazz period. And this is kind of the crossover, like I said, into between that middle and later period of jazz. So we'll listen to a little more of those periods here. This next one is from 1978. This is Maynard Ferguson, another trumpet player here. it does sound extremely modern, right? 80s synth, yeah, that's a big giveaway, right? We can hear how the rock and roll influence is really prevalent in this one. So definitely not going to be the earlier jazz. Almost sounds like disco, yeah, absolutely. And probably not in that middle cool bop kind of era either, because that rock influence is so strong. And again, this was when this was all the rave. Maynard Ferguson playing those high trumpet notes, wah, wah, very in your face, disco-y, rock and roll-y kind of influence. This is not Dinah, somebody said. What do you guys think? Is this Dinah? Lauren feels strongly that it's not Dinah. Anybody want to make it a 2 out of 3 vote here? All right, you guys are going to leave Lauren out to dry, huh? They don't want to be fooled. Yeah. No, that's definitely not Dinah. I did not hear Dinah. Is there anyone finer? All right, it was very rock influenced. I don't think it is yet. No, it's definitely not Dinah. So that was the quiz question there. So the last one I have for you here is very recent. This is from 2019, actually. A+. I didn't hear the melody. Yes, very good. Yes, sir. You're listening for that melody, right? That definitely was not present in that very rock influenced song. So the last one I have for you here is Dinah, and it's going to be pretty obvious. But this is a 2019 version that Wynton Marsalis played of what they consider, or they believe, Buddy Bolden's bands would have sounded like. Buddy Bolden, again, was the king of trumpet. He was one of the first original jazz bands. It was called JASS, but one of the first original jazz bands. So because there were no recordings of that, I was waiting for it. Because there were no recordings of that, Wynton had to go back into the history books and kind of figure out what he thinks Buddy would have sounded like when he was playing. So we're going to hear a little bit about that. You can definitely hear that this is a very old tradition, but things like the sound quality, honestly, the way that Wynton plays his solos sound very modern. And I'd like to know what you guys think about that. So again, throw your thoughts in the chat, please.
Oh, baby, every night when I always exam, cause that dynamite, but didn't hold me. Who you are that dynamite? I'd up in North Carolina.
Very 20s, good. The sound quality, the sound quality is very high. That's right. It sounds like what the jokey hipsters want to be. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's a good point. That's probably very true. I'm sure that trumpet player wishes he could play like Wynton could there. But so I want to talk a little bit about why exactly this sounds so old and yet so new at the same time. What are some things that you're hearing from the old tradition, the old Dixieland era, that early era that we were talking about? So much more natural. Yeah, it is natural, right? It's much more natural than the other ones sounded. The rhythm and drums, yes, that's a big giveaway, right? Are we hearing the kind of swingy drum feel? Are we hearing the very aggressive bebop kind of feel? Are we hearing that rock kind of feel? The trumpet is improv. That's right. Yeah. The chunk. You guys calling it the chunk. I love it. We're gonna actually put together a list of all the things that come to mind for you guys. So I like chunk. We'll put that one down. The poppy trumpet sound. Yeah. The trumpet improv. Yes, very good. So we're hearing that oompa, very old style Dixieland, right? But it's much cleaner. The riffs. Yeah, the little riffs that they're playing, and that's a very good observation. We're hearing everybody kind of having this collective improvisation at the same time. And that's very traditional of the old styles of jazz. While people were out on the street playing, for hours at a time, they would just kind of be collectively improvising over these musical forms and structures that came in from the European traditions. So I guess it sounds old and new at the same time. Very refined, right? Very clean, very modern sounding because of the way that it's recorded. Just not as circusy. Here we go. Okay, so I have a couple of different trumpet players here. This is kind of like a pretest. It's not graded or anything. We're just gonna see how well you guys are absorbing this information. So I want you guys to estimate each trumpet player's timeline, whether they were in this early 1910s to kind of the 1940s Dixieland old swing big band kind of era. If this is from the 1940s to the 1960s-ish, again, because these eras do kind of bleed into each other. But do you think that this is more rooted in that old style, the middle cool bebop or kind of spacey kind of era, or the newer era of things like rock influence and stuff like that? So somebody want to give me a number 1 to 6, and we'll just start with that that trumpet player here. Ooh, where'd my chart go? No, where are you? There you are. 2. Okay, let's start with that. So tell me what you guys are hearing about this song, about this tune. Is it fast? Is it slow? Is there a lot of people? Is there only a few people? What are you guys noticing? A lot of improvising? Do you hear a melody at all? So tell me, what instrument is playing right now? I see you guys' answers here. We're gonna go through them here. Trumpet, yeah, trumpet, right? Yeah, that is a trumpet on the top, right? Can you guys hear what's underneath the trumpet that's playing at all? Yeah. There's also something going boom, 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 boom. What is that? A bass, right? And drums. Yeah. Wow, Lauren. Yeah, you got them all. Very good. Bass. Yeah. Very good. Yeah, she's nailing them. Okay. So we got a couple of different opinions here. We have crunchy sound. It sounds fast, which makes me think bop. Sounds like a bigger band. Somebody said 10s to 40s or 40s to 60s. Looks like Tabby is being a little unsure there. I can't be on the chat and hear the music at the same time. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. You can also unmute if you'd rather. You're lagging behind. Oops. All right. Okay, so some of the things that we are hearing, though, are we hearing a melody very much? No, right? A little bit at the beginning, there was that little hook thing, but then it was kind of abandoned, right? So I think that might be a clue. So let's go back to our page here. And there we are. Good. Okay. So for this one, we're on number 2. Where would we put this? In the middle? Beginning, middle, or end here? Early jazz,
Okay.
middle jazz, or late jazz?
I'm unmuting because
Okay.
meh. God, I'm like, if it's the 1910s to 1940s, then I would say that it's probably later. If it's the 1940s and 1960s, it's earlier. So it's like
Yeah. No,
the 40s.
The 40s. You're gonna stick with a particular time frame there. Okay. Yeah, no, I would see why. I could see why you're bringing that up. And that, again, that is a good point to make. That these kind of they kind of do bleed into themselves a little bit. But all right. So we'll put him.
I'm gonna go 1910s to 1940s.
Okay,
Final,
we got it. 1910s
final
and 1940s. So we're gonna put this guy. Gonna put this guy in this area over here, and we'll move this one over. All right. Let's try the next one. We'll start up here in this corner.
County Fair.
What did you say, Andrew?
Here. It's the county fair again.
The county fair.
Yeah.
Somebody said
earlier.
20s. Tabby, you were saying middle from the other one, I think, right? Okay, 20, and Angela says earlier. Okay, so we got a 2 out of 3 vote there. So we'll put this one. Do you think it was to the left or to the right of the other one? Was it earlier than the last one? Or I'm sorry?
Earlier than the last one.
Earlier, yeah, earlier. Good. Okay, cool. Oh, well, I guess you saw that. That was actually from 1926. Good job.
Right.
All right, so this guy's going to the left. So we know for reference that this is in 1926, this hokey dokey kind of sound, right? So let's go to the next one here. Chunk, as you guys called it. Let's try this guy. Uh-oh. Come on. What's going on? Come on, man. My links are disappearing. That is unfortunate. All right, let me try doing it manually here. 1 second, guys. Sorry. All right, let's try that.
It sounds more synthetic.
Sounds synthetic again.
More like elevator music.
Mm-hmm.
Smoother jazz.
So what do you think? Is this guy right here? You think it's down over this side? 60s to 90s, somebody said. So somewhere over here?
Yeah.
What are you, Christ? We got some disagreements. Earlier for sure.
No. Yeah, I agree with them.
Okay. Would you say it's
90s.
Towards the 60s or more towards the 90s, do you think? What do you think? Towards the 90s? Okay, yeah, that's a pretty big consensus. Okay, good. Very good, guys. Cool. All right, let's try the next one here. I'll just keep picking my own here. We don't have to have you guys pick them all. This one.
I'm not sure it's the 60s.
You said 60s, Angela? I saw somebody else.
I was like,
60s.
I'm not sure it's the 60s. It feels a little earlier, like the cool jazz thing.
Okay, yeah, good. You're really listening for those differences there. You are correct about that. It is a little bit earlier. That's a good point here. Lauren says the 60s, so definitely that middle era, right? Yeah.
Lauren salty.
This was released a little bit earlier there.
By a year.
Yeah. All right. Oh man, this is getting messy. My things are disappearing. I don't know why. All right. We got a few more here. Let's see. How about this one?
Oh, yeah. It sounds like disco, almost like it wants to be disco.
Disco.
I love it. It has that weird meter thing. Or not meter, just like Gloria
Estefan vibes. No, that's a good point though. It sounds modernized, right? So what do you guys think? Earlier, middle? I'm gonna stop messing with these. They're all falling apart for some reason.
Yeah,
1980s. Yeah, good. So definitely in this third area, right? Definitely hearing those rock and roll vibes in there. I'd say, yeah, you guys are in a good ballpark there. Let's see. Oh, for the record, that's Randy Brecker, and it was 1975 there. That was the beginning of those guys. I think that was all of them. I want to say maybe there was one more. I got a little messed up there from the. Oh, here's the last one. Okay.
My immediate impression is ish. Cool jazz thing.
All right. So what are the impressions here? I heard somebody said cool jazz. Was that you, Angela? Yep. 60s. Angela or Tabby saying 60s. Good. The big reveal. Okay. Yeah. You guys nailed that one. That was actually 1959. That was the towards the end of that hard bop. Definitely middle area though, right? Middle era. We're not hearing that rock and roll sound, right? We're not hearing those kinds of influences here. We're still in that kind of cool, chilled out, laid back, not bebop, because it's not crazy, right? It's not the old style at all, but it's not quite where Randy Brecker, like we were talking about before from the 70s, we have those synthetic sounds and those kinds of things, right? This is very, very hard in the cool, hard bop tradition, that middle era. So good. These are the kinds of things that I want you guys to start listening for as we go through the course. I'm going to be asking you a lot about why you think that particular music sounds the way that it does. Again, we're not going to focus as much on dates in this class. I want you guys to know more about the ballparks, about when these musicians were playing and where the music was coming from. So does anybody have any questions? We'll round out the class, I think, are out now. We get it a little early. Anybody questions about the syllabus that we went over and early? Okay.
I mean, I personally want to know what you think about the Princess and the Frog movie, but you haven't seen it. So if you see it, tell me your opinions, because I know
Yeah.
you're going to have opinions.
Oh, okay. Why? Is there something to do with jazz, or I don't know the story at all, actually.
Princess and the Frog is set in early 19 teens, 1920s New Orleans. And
Oh,
yes, there's jazz.
oh. Okay. Yeah, I didn't know
Much
that.
jazz.
I had no idea. I've never seen it. All right, cool. But yeah, you can see again. That's how popular culture has kind of absorbed the jazz tradition. I mean, you can see it everywhere. That's another thing I'd like you guys to kind of listen for. Can we give you homework? What do you mean by that? For me? I was gonna say that's one thing that I wanted you guys to kind of start to kind of think about. If you really listen for it, you can hear a lot of jazz throughout your days in different videos and things like that. When we watch the movie, whoa. I also have not seen the movie. Can we give you? Okay, yeah, maybe we'll check out a little bit of that movie at some point in the semester. So, all right, cool guys. So for quote unquote homework, there's no homework this week. But what I do want you guys to do is check out a couple of different jazz tunes. Particularly, I want you to listen throughout your days and try to find different sources of media that you're consuming that have jazz in them. And maybe just bring one up at the next class or something like that. So not really an assignment, but I do want you guys to be actively listening to things before our next meeting. If you hear something on the radio or in a TV show or in a video game or something like that, I want you to bring in the specific thing and be able to like have me pull it up on the computer or whatever so we can hear it together. Okay. And I think outside of that, we are good to go. And I will see you guys next class. All right. Bye, guys.
Thank you.